Now we are moving on to Sri Raghu Anantanarayananji, who is the senior most in our ecosystem.
Okay.
Uh, Raghuji, his book Antaranga Yoga uh, is going to be introduced through a conversation between Anita Balasubramanianji and Raghu Anantanarayananji.
Raji, thank you. Hello, Raghu,
Thank
namaste.
you. Hi, Anita.
Hi. So let me just start the conversation by having also been involved in this process with you for about a year now, more than year and a half, with Dr. Lata and Dr. Anand Paranjpe as well. To give people an idea of what brought you to this place of writing the book and its relevance in today's context, and what gap does it address?
Okay. Yeah, let me try and answer your question. See, there are 2-3 things that has brought me to writing this book, or publishing it finally, because the book writing started, as you know, long back. When I first met Deshikachar, he had asked me why I want to learn yoga, and I had this idea that I had to do something to do with yoga and psychology, right? And I didn't know either of them very well, not that I know too much now, yeah, but whatever. So one of the things that happened was I was also, after starting to study yoga with Deshikachar and Krishnamacharya, I had also been working with Professor Pulin Garg from IIM Ahmedabad. So I was sharing with Professor Garg some of the ideas from the Yoga Sutras, and he was extremely intrigued because Professor Garg is one of the pioneers of reflective, self-level encounter group work in India. So he came over to Chennai, stayed with me for 2-3 months, and we would go and discuss with Deshikachar and occasionally meet his father also. And between Deshikachar and Professor Garg, they came up with the idea that there is what Krishnamacharya used to call Antaranga Yoga, was completely in the realm of psychological transformation. Right? So the entire work started with these dialogues, and I was avidly writing notes, and then we put together these notes in the form of an initial document, and we were shaping it into a book when Professor Garg fell ill and some other things happened, so the work got suspended for some time. Right? And a couple of years back, Dr. Nambiar from KYM was very keen that I start some work with KYM, so he invited me and we put together a small team. Yeah, Dr. Jayaraman was part of the team. There was Sridharan, who was a very senior teacher in KYM. Then there was Dr. Lata Satish, another very senior teacher. And of course, there was you and me and other people who came in, right? So we took this manuscript, and there was a project that we started called Self According to the Yoga Sutras. Went through the old documents, reviewed them, compared it with some of the understandings that Lata, Jayaraman, Sridharan and all of them had from their various discussions with Deshikachar. And the book is an outcome of all of that. Yeah, I just thought I would show the cover, Anita, of the book.
Yes, please. Yes, Raghu. Maybe that can just be there on the screen. Yeah.
Yeah, can you see that?
Yes, very clearly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is in brief the history behind the book. So it's been a few decades in the making.
Yeah.
And for me, it's a great event that it was possible to put together all the work that I'd done with Deshikachar into this book, because for me it's a great honored to have been able to do this with Deshikachar and Krishnamacharya to start with, then with Pulan, and then with the help of Jayaraman and Sridharan and Lata and all of them, to be able to bring it to completion and offer it back to KYM.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like a whole circle of a journey ended. Yeah. So now I don't know what to do next.
I don't think there's any dearth of that, Raghu. So just stepping off from there, you talked about the looking at the self and its transformation, and that being the core of Antaranga Yoga. So maybe can you talk about the connection between what self-transformation is and what Antaranga Yoga is?
Yeah. See, I don't think people recognize that, that yoga covers a whole movement of the mind. It starts by describing the Kshipta Chitta, the Muda Chitta, which are very much superficial kinds of minds, and goes all the way to talking about a mind that is capable of ekagrata, samadhi, and then all the way to nirbija samadhi. So the range of movement, the range of transformation that yoga talks about is very, very wide. Now, what has happened is, if we do a mind experiment, a thought experiment, we'll understand why Antaranga Yoga needs to be explained again. Right? Now, supposing every time I told you water and I showed you two pictures, I either show you a picture of ice or I show you a picture of steam. Right? So you have this impression in your mind that water is equal to ice or steam. And I'm a poor Indian who studied with a master. So you come and ask me for water and I come and give you plain water. You think something is wrong with me. And I have to explain to you what water is. Yeah, we are in that sort of a situation today. Because whenever we talk yoga, we are either shown somebody in a posture, mostly Bhagirathasana, as the epitome of asana, or you're shown somebody with closed eyes, or not even somebody, just an outline of somebody in a sitting in meditation. But the plain water is in the middle, right? And water can be asana practice, it can be something further, but you have to understand water to understand all of these. Antaranga Yoga is exactly this portion, and the way Krishnamacharya has described the Yoga Sutra is that it consists of three parts. One is the Bahiranga, which is Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama. Pratyahara becomes the bridge, and Dharana. These two are more or less the bridge. And then you go into deeper states, which are also part of Antaranga, and then you come to Parama Antaranga Yoga when you go into Samadhi and beyond. This intermediate process is extremely critical, and he's emphasized that, especially in Kali Yuga, understanding asana, pranayama, yama, niyama also as Antaranga practices is very important. Okay, so the way he describes it is that since the mind today has been very badly influenced, I mean, he's talked about colonization also, and he's talked about the various practices of child rearing, the world, how we live and all that, and says that the mind is in chanchalam all the time. So understanding something, let's say as simple as ahimsa, requires us to look at it as a mirror and to understand what are my impulses, what are my compulsions, when is it that I'm acting with Maitri and Karuna, what is it that prevents me, what is it that enables me, and so on. So he takes this self-reflective process, which is enshrined in the Yoga Sutra as Swadhyaya, as a very critical aspect, right? And he's also said, which is Shankaracharya said and other people have said, that before you understand anything of the deeper aspects of reality, your mind has to be capable of viveka and vairagya. And the practice of what Shankaracharya call Shat Sampat has to be something natural. It has to flow. So compassion, Maitri and so on cannot be it obviously cannot be forced, but only a mind for which conduct in the world has this natural flow of Maitri and Karuna, where the mind is capable of Viveka and the mind is also capable of Vairagya, is actually capable of even entering a question like what is Brahman. So this portion of yoga becomes very, very critical, right? And if you take a modern context, and this is again something that Krishnamacharya has talked about, Deshikacharya has talked about, several conversations they've had, where there was once a question which said, what's the basis of ethics in India, kind of a question. So what Krishnamacharya said is that if the person is steeped in yoga and he has a clear mind which is then inquiring into reality, then ethics is a fundamental ground on which this person stands.
Can you hold the book in your front so that throughout the conversation, audience are able to see the cover?
Okay.
No, I think just maybe screen share the cover.
Yeah, is that okay, Nagaraj?
Yeah. So throughout the audience will be able to see the book. Yeah, please continue.
You can see it now? Yeah.
Yes.
Right? So all of these are processes of self-reflection.
It's 14:30.
Right?
Yeah.
And there are many, many methods that he has talked about. So we've tried to put all of that together and give an understanding both of the structure of the mind as it's found in the Yoga Sutra, and how this mind is caught in certain states which are not amenable to deep reflection. How does this mind shift and become something capable of deep reflection? So that's the area that we have covered here, which is the Antaranga Yoga that Krishnamacharya talks about. And we've also called it a foundation for Indian psychology because the basic ideas for what is perception, what is right perception, what is wrong perception, how does the mind become caught with avidya, what's the impact of abhinivesha and these kind of forces on the mind, right? And all of these things are common to all Indic thought and clearly defined in the Yoga Sutra, right? And Dr. Paranjipe, Anand Paranjipe, one of the people who's been pushing me to complete this work for some time, his contention is that when people put books into the library, in the modern era, somebody took Yoga Sutra and put it in philosophy and completely screwed up the whole study. Because according to him, Yoga Sutra is the primary text on psychology. And he has recently talked about how Patanjali may be the premier psychologist. Right? So these are all mistakes that have happened, and we've been also colonized by these ideas. So it's time to re-establish the realities. Yeah. So whatever is called modern yoga is only talking about one end, and it's forgotten the real critical middle. Yeah. It's not serving water, it's serving ice and calling it water. So we are trying to correct that to some extent.
Thank you for that beautiful metaphor. It really brings the whole idea alive. Also, having experienced some of it where one is trying to understand one's own emotions in a certain context, how one engages, how one disengages, all that. And it's fascinating that you say that the mind the quality of the mind decides the kind of questions, the kind of interactions, the kind of solutions that it will look for, and the processes that it will therefore engage in, right?
Absolutely.
So, right. And so I just want to also ask one more question, just to extend that to when you say the quality of the mind, it's a very embodied kind of a mind, and therefore the mind is also connected to the whole the self. No, so can you just talk
Correct.
about these two
Yeah.
a little more clearly, because I
Yeah.
think it's critical, and
Yeah.
that's where the whole idea of Indian psychology becomes very
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. See, there are 2-3 very critical things. Thanks for prompting me, because when we're using the word mind in English, I forget that I'm thinking chitta and I'm using the word mind, right? Maybe psyche is a better English word. I don't know what English word would be encompassing enough. Yeah. See, one of the things that Krishnamacharya talked about is the difference between most Western ways of looking at the self and the yogic way of looking at the self. So he used the word Sarva Anga for looking at the yogic framework, and Anga Bhanga when he talked about the Western ways. So his idea was that there are 5 koshas, na? Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya, and beyond. He says yoga deals with all of these as one coherent unit, right? So dealing with the mind, if you take yoga seriously, starts with your food, starts with the way you interact with the world, how you use your senses, your emotional being, how you think, what categories you think with, yeah, how you inquire, are you inquiring from a clear space or not, are you experiencing shantam within, are you approaching the world from a state of shantam, or are you approaching it from bhayanakam or raudram or so on. So all of these, right, are looked at in a coherent way, right? And you know the Viraja Mantram also, na, which Krishnamacharya used to quote very often, where different aspects of the self are looked at together, and you pray for Shuddhi in your prana, in your, you know, from the Shiras downward, your Vak, right? Tvak Charma Magum Sarudira Medo Asti Majja, from, you know, speech and so on, Prithvi up Tejo Vayu, and Ananda, Annamaya, Pranamaya. So all of these he would put together and say, this is the way you look at the self. You don't look at it from only one or the other. And any one you touch will immediately impact everything. Yeah, so he called it Sarva Anga as opposed to Anga Bhanga. I think this is a beautiful way of looking at the whole process.
Yeah. Raghuji, I think we are now coming to the conclusion of this conversation about the book. Beautiful book, beautiful cover page. Audience, please have a look at the book, the cover page. Please search for the book, browse for the book on the internet. It's already available for purchase. It's a fund of guidance for all the people. The entire lifelong work of Raghuji in this area is all crystallized into this great book. Please have a look at the book, inform others, share with others, share in your social media platforms, inform the entire Indian psychology world about such a wonderful book. Thank you very much, Sri Raghuji.
Just one small thing, Nagaraji. I think the book is going to be available through Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandiram in their website. I don't know if they're going to be putting it up on Amazon or not as yet. But I think if people look into KYM website right now, they should be able to get an idea.
And there is a question from Srimati Kanchan Gagate to Raghu Ananta Narayananji. And Saraswati Sarasji, there are 2 questions to you in the question and answer box. Are you able to see the tab at the bottom, Q and A, Saraswati Sarasji?
Can I just read out the question for Raghuji, because that's connected to also what he was just sharing. Maybe he can just.
Yes, sir, I'm seeing this.
Yeah, so Saraswati ji, you please answer those questions in the box itself.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Now
Yes.
I invite Dr. Josna Agarwal from NIMHANS to present her paper. Before that, probably Anita ji is going to read out a question. Yeah, please.
No, I was just saying that I think it's a good closing because what Raghu was mentioning about the idea of self. And the question is, when we say self-transformation, is it about realizing Swarupa and not a journey from becoming bad to good? And I think maybe that can be tied also to what you were saying.
Yeah, there are no categories like bad and good. There is the whole idea of whether the chitta is covered with avidya and how to dissolve avidya. And along with dissolving avidya, a sense of self also gets dissolved, which is called the asmita level of self. And much deeper, much more subtle levels of self arise. Yeah, so maybe one can say that one swadharma comes up, because the Yoga Sutra clearly says swadhyayat ishtadevata samprayogaha. So your deepest potentials, your divine potentials will start manifesting once you start dissolving the layers of avidya. After that, a much deeper level of understanding the formless divine and all that comes up. And those are part of this Prakriti. They're not separate from this Prakriti.
Thank you, Raghu, and thank you, Dr. Nagaraj, for this time in this conference, because I think this is really a very valuable book that's coming out, and congratulations, Raghu, on a lifelong work coming to fruition.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.